Jess!
The film opens in the grey countryside of Wales. Jessica Jess Webb Thomas, a sculptor of some renown and an American by birth, prepares nervously for a meeting that has weighed on her heart for nearly a decade. A recovering addict now living a quieter life, Jess has summoned the courage to reach out to her estranged daughter, Chloe. Once taken into foster care due to Jess's dependency, Chloe has grown up believing she was abandoned. Jess hopes that time has softened old wounds. They meet in a small, neutral space. Jess's hands tremble as she tries to speak from her heart. She tells Chloe that she has a spare room prepared, a soft bed, and new linens. She tells her the house is peaceful. She tries to explain that the old demons are gone, that she is clean, that the home she shares with her second husband, Ben, is full of light and good intentions. Chloe listens in silence, then answers in a voice stripped of emotion. She tells her mother that the time for this kind of love has passed. 9 years ago, she says, is when she needed a mother. Now there is only space where warmth should have been. Jess pleads gently, but Chloe rises. Before leaving, she utters words that land like a sinking stone in Jess's chest. She asks that Jess not reach out again. She says it firmly.
Don't come here again.
And something shatters inside Jess. The next morning, Jess returns to her studio. She resumes work on her current commission, a life-size sculpture of a woman named Tira. As Jess shapes the figure, she notices Tira watching her with quiet intensity. When the session ends, Tira reaches into her bag and presents Jess with a necklace, a simple cord bearing a stone carved with delicate markings. Tira explains that it is a talis necklace. She speaks gently and tells Jess not to carry sorrow for Chloe. She says that a mother's love is never wasted, even when it seems to fall into silence. She insists the talis holds power, real and old magic, that can help Chloe see the truth of Jess's love. Jess accepts it with soft gratitude, unsure of the gift's meaning, yet touched by the gesture. Meanwhile, that evening, Chloe ventures out with her friend Danny. The two wander through the back lanes and woodland paths that lead to an abandoned house. They whisper to each other about the stories, about Mary Amanoff, the reclusive woman who once lived there. Mary, they say, was strange, always muttering in a language no one understood. And after she passed under tragic circumstances, the whispers of her being a witch only grew louder. In jest, they dare each other to knock on the door. They do it twice. Two sharp raps that echo through the ruined house. Then they laugh and walk away. But the air seems heavier afterward. The shadows feel watchful. That night, Danny begins to behave strangely. Objects in his home shift on their own accord. He sees movement where nothing should be. Then one day, without warning, he is claimed by something unseen. He vanishes, leaving behind no trace. Shaken by mounting dread and the loss of her friend, Chloe calls at Jess's house. Her voice is laced with panic, her words halting. She begs to stay with her mother. Jess's heart swells with emotion. She readies the room, prepares fresh sheets. In the days that follow, Chloe remains guarded and is somewhat hostile to her family. Then the strange events begin. One evening at dinner, Jess ladles out warm carrot and coriander soup. Chloe lifts her spoon and pauses. She finds a human molar bleeding into the soup. She recoils and screams, her appetite gone. The house falls into uneasy silence. Shortly after, Ben leaves for one of his regular work trips, unaware that something has already begun to take hold within their home. Later that night, Jess is gripped by a dream so vivid it forces her upright in bed, heart pounding. She is in her home, but the air is wrong. The walls weep. In the hallway, she finds an old woman, frail, hunched, her eyes deep with grief. The woman speaks a single word, her voice trembling, Przepraszam. Then she draws a thin blade across her neck and crumples without a sound. Jess wakes in a cold sweat, the word echoing. She recounts the dream to Chloe, who had come in to check on her screaming mother. Chloe stiffens and says the name Mary Amanoff. She tells Jess the stories she and Danny believed were harmless tales, stories that bear a strong resemblance to Jess's dreams. After Mary's intentional passing, an urban legend started that she would come and get you if you knocked twice on her door. As the days wear on, Jess notices a shift in the house. Shadows fall in the wrong direction. The sound of footsteps trails them at night. Her sculptures begin to change without her touch, features warped, eyes too lifelike. Jess invites Tira back for another session, but Tira arrives tense. She takes one look at Chloe and says she cannot stay. She says something ancient walks with the girl now, something drawn by grief and guilt. Without waiting for the session to end, Tira steps away from the platform and gathers her things in haste. Before leaving, she turns to Jess, her voice low and urgent. She warns Jess to be cautious. She says Jess cannot help the girl, that something has already claimed her. There is a darkness around Chloe, she says, something she has seen before. Jess looks at her, bewildered. Tira insists she knows about such things, and she tells Jess to trust her. Chloe, she claims, is marked by something terrible, something old and cruel. Jess shakes her head. Not her daughter, not Chloe. Later, a man arrives at the house. He introduces himself as Detective Boardman. He is following up on the case of Danny's disappearance. Jess receives him politely, though her heart pounds. Chloe joins them reluctantly. The detective's questions are careful at first, but his tone sharpens when he brings up past events. He mentions that this is not the first time a young person has vanished under strange circumstances. He brings up the foster home, where Chloe's from, a boy named Michael, who once vanished years ago without a trace. As the detective speaks, it becomes clear that Chloe and Danny had a history. Years ago, they spread a rumor about a woman named Mary Amanoff. The two children had been frightened when Michael disappeared. They believed Mary to be a witch responsible for the mishap. They knocked on her door, again and again. They mocked her, teased her, until she could no longer bear the whispers. She passed on shortly after. Chloe does not deny the story. Her face is pale, her eyes flat with pain, but she does not take the words back. She says it again. Mary took Danny, and now Mary is coming for her. Jess listens in disbelief, but something shifts after that conversation. Chloe begins to soften. Perhaps it's the memories. Perhaps it is the quiet understanding she sees in Jess's eyes. Over time, the sharp edges between them dull slightly. They sit together more often. Chloe even begins helping in the kitchen. She even assists as Jess sculpts. But beneath it all, a dark tension grows. Chloe becomes convinced she is being hunted. She begins to speak of Baba Yaga, a name from Slavic tales. She explains the legend, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and belief. She says Baba Yaga is not merely a witch, but a demon of old, a being that opens a doorway between the underworld and the world of the living. She feeds on the innocent, but her power is limited here. To fully act, she needs a helper, a slave, someone cursed, someone with the mark. And the only way for that slave to be free, Chloe says, is to either take their life or trick someone else into taking their place. The trickery will involve making the unsuspecting victim do something truly horrid. Jess stares, horrified at the words coming out of her daughter's mouth. Chloe believes Mary was not just a witch, but a slave. And perhaps that's why she ended her life. That the knocking is not just a game. The first knock summons the demon. The second, the cursed soul. Jess has heard enough. She tells Chloe she loves her, that she wants to help. But delusions are not the way forward. Chloe says nothing, only stares down at her hands. A few days later, Jess enters her studio and stops short. Her tools are scattered. Her sculptures are broken. The floor is smeared with clay and paint, but among the mess, something else. Scrawled in red jagged letters across the concrete floor are two words: "She's mine." That night, the house groans. The lights flicker. A shadow passes by Chloe's window. Jess sees it too. Something tall, cloaked in black.
Jess!
With limbs that do not move like a human's. They lock the doors and hold each other in silence. Jess cannot deny it now. The stories are no longer just Chloe's. They are based on something real. The following morning, a shriek pierces the house as Chloe is flung about by an unseen force. Then a rip in the fabric of the foyer opens like a wound. Within it, a swirling portal pulses and pulls at the walls. Chloe is nearly dragged inside. Jess reaches her just in time. Her arms burn with effort, but she holds her child back from the brink. They escape to Tira, seeking answers. Tira receives them coldly. She tells them Mary was not a witch, that the rumor destroyed her, that Chloe's childhood cruelty gave shape to Mary's revenge. Chloe begins to unravel. She blames herself. She says she caused this, that she invited the horror in. She flees the house in panic and is found hours later, returned to the foster home, tears staining her face. Jess, heartbroken, goes to bring her back, but something clicks into place. A realization. The true threat is not Mary, but someone else. Someone is hiding behind the law in uniform. Detective Boardman. She rushes to retrieve her daughter, but by the time she arrives, it is too late. Chloe has vanished once more, taken by the malevolent force. Jess returns to the old house where it all began, Mary's house. The air is thick with rot. She manages to enter but steps on a rusted nail, gravely injuring herself. She stumbles her way through the house, only to be arrested by the police. As the officers are about to take Jess to the station, she manages to knock twice on Mary's door. On reaching the station, they leave her alone in a holding cell. The room grows cold. The light flickers. Then, without warning, the Baba Yaga's portal appears again. It pulls her through. Soon, she finds herself in a cave, damp and pulsing with unnatural light. Deeper in, she sees a cage holding Chloe. Jess frees her, hands trembling. They flee together, with Baba Yaga close behind. At the old house, Boardman arrives, perhaps searching for the same answers. As the door swings open, Jess and Chloe escape, but Boardman is not so lucky. He screams for help as he is taken away by Baba Yaga. But Jess and her daughter do nothing. When Jess and Chloe return home, the house is still. They call for Ben as they expect him to be home at this time, but he does not answer. Meanwhile, Tira is seen outside, her face cold, her clothes soaked in red. In the trunk of her car lies Ben's body. The mark of Baba Yaga blazes across her chest. Jess tries to explain to Chloe that Boardman was the true villain. But Chloe shakes her head. Her voice is quiet. She says that while inside the other world, she saw Michael. And he was taken by Mary, fed to the demon. Boardman was never the monster. They were tricked. Jess goes still with realization. Tira had lied. She had pushed Jess to sacrifice an innocent man, to pass the curse. In that moment, Jess feels the necklace on her throat grow hot. It sears her skin. She claws at it. Beneath the chain, her skin blisters, and there, burned into her chest, is the mark, the symbol of Baba Yaga. The room dims. A silence thickens. Then comes the knock. Once, then again, slow and final. The door creaks open. A shadow looms. The last thing seen is the figure of Baba Yaga, reaching through the darkness, her long fingers stretching forward to claim what has been marked, the end.